Hi, my name is Donnie Decker, and I will be demonstrating inventory today using clothing. The demonstration will be in two main sections. The first part will be the normal use during a visit, and the second part I will be showing the inventory module. To get started, first thing we will need to do is to create a visit. To do the visit, we'll go ahead and go to New Visit. We'll choose our outreach or distribution. In this case, this will be our clothing closet. Once we have done that, we can find our client. There's several ways of doing this. You could do it by a barcode. If you are using barcode, simply scan the client's barcode and that will pull them up. Once you've done that, all you need to do is to choose what service they're receiving, and you can certainly have more than one, but in this situation, we're only doing one for this demonstration. You can also view history, if there's any clothing history, any files in the guest record as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save this visit. Now I told the system to stay here because now I have to actually check out what type of clothing that they would actually be taking. So in this case, I'm going to go into what we call our point of sale or POS. So in this case, I'll click New Order. And then I can start scanning the different items. So let's say the client received a belt. So then I can just scan it and then it pulls up a belt. Let's say he also got a men's shirt. You can scan the men's shirt, but he got more than one, so I'll just scan it twice. And it increments from 1 to 2. He received some shoes. There you go. And we have shoes added. Now, when you're all done checking things in, simply save the order. And these items have been then removed from your inventory itself. If at any point in time you need to edit the order, you can always go back to the record. In this case, I will go back and find the client, go back in, update the order, takes me back to the point of sale. I can remove or add items as needed. So let's say in this case, I didn't record the pants that he had received. So I'll go ahead and I'll scan the pants barcode, and it added it. So now he has his pants, shoes, shirt, and a belt. Once you're done making those changes, you can just simply hit save, yes, and now it's been edited. And those 4 items now have been removed from inventory as you've used it. Now let's do this process a little bit differently, because generally you're not going to check out the clothing they received at the same time you process the visit. It's usually a 2-step process. So in this case, what we're going to mock up is you'll check them in. The people in the clothing area would know that he's checked in. They'd call him back and they would work with him. Then what they would do is they would go into his visit and then do the checkout there. Not the checkout for the visit, but the checkout for the clothing he received, because the visit's already been processed. So let's do this so you can see what it would look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a different client. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and search for them since they don't have a barcode. And I'll just go ahead and type in part of their name. And then I'll grab Donald Roberts. Now, all I have to do at this stage is just click clothing and save the visit. Now I'm all done. I'll hit done here, and then you'll see Donald Roberts is in the list. And you can also see down here at the bottom that he has received clothing. Now this first one has been checked out and processed and completed. So we're going to just go ahead and mark that one complete. And this is what the people in the clothing room would likely do. They would mark one completed, or if they're working with them, they would mark them in processing. So this way it allows you to have multiple volunteers working with multiple clients. It's not a one at a time situation. It can be, but probably not. So to be more realistic in how you would use it, is this person would probably be in processing with one volunteer. Now another volunteer would maybe ask Donald Roberts to come back and work with them. So what they would do is they would mark them in processing, do their thing, and when they're done, they would come back here and then click on Donald Roberts. Here then they would go ahead and choose the clothing order. Now this is a good opportunity to show you another option, is we do have packages. And a package is something that makes it very easy to check out multiple items at one time by choosing one package that is made up of those multiple items. So instead of checking out a belt, shoes, slacks, and a shirt for a man, then what we could just do is go up here and then we could just type in, well in this case we'll just do men's, And then you'll see several options. So we have a men's outfit option, and this is a package. I could also search for outfit, right? So which would identify more of a package than just a single item. You know, like men's shirt would be like a single item, but a men's outfit would mean to think that there's more items than just one item in it. So in this case, I'll just go ahead and hit the little card over here and then check out a men's outfit. Now, he did receive an outfit, but let's say he also received an additional shirt. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and scan a shirt. So now we know we got 2 shirts plus an outfit. And you'll see later when we go into the inventory module here in just a second that a shirt is included in an outfit. When you're done, just hit Save Order, and we're completed with this account. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to mark this one completed, so I know this person is done. And we can also verify this one, and you see there is an order. We don't really need to work with it since we know it's there because it says update order. And then we could also mark this one done in case someone hadn't done that like they should have. Now, in the meantime, as new visits are checked in, you'll see new people being added. So if I were to go ahead and process one more, let's pull up Todd, and I process a visit and I save it. Now we know that we can start working with Todd the same exact way. Go ahead and choose them, mark them in processing, and then when there's another one that's checked in, the next volunteer can mark them in processing, and so on, and just complete that process as you're working through customers. This makes it very easy to keep track of that. So as you saw, using the POS checkout in conjunction with your visits is very, very easy, and it shouldn't take any time at all. So let's move on to part 2, where we're going to discuss, actually show the inventory module. And to get there, you're going to go to Manage and then Inventory. This takes you to your inventory page. And I'm going to go through some of the basic pieces really quick. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go look at adding a new item. Now, the best way to add item is just go to Items. You have a new option. Or in the list page, which is where we're at currently, you can also create a new item. Either one will be the same. So when you hit Create Item, there's several sections or several items that you would want to consider. First off, you can upload an image. You can give it a name, whatever that item is, a description if it's important, a price and its weight. Points you can use for what you want right now. We do have a plan for that. I'll discuss that later. You have a min and max count, and these are for your ordering. So if you get at or below minimum count, then when you run a reorder report, it will recommend to reorder this item and include the number of items to reach your max count. In this case, we wouldn't use a traffic light nutrition indicator because this is clothing, not food. And then we can add multiple tags. Now we'll show tags that we have set in the system in a minute and where they are normally. Now that's how simple making an item is. Let's just look at a quick item that's already made. So we're going to go into women's blouses. This is the view of it as it's being used, but let's look at the edit, which is going to look very similar to the create new page. So in this case, we have the picture of the blouse, the name of it. I didn't add a description, what its price is, what its weight, points, min-max count, which I didn't use. If you're dependent on a lot of donations, min-max count really isn't a reorder option. It's just what you have, you have. And then I added shirts and women's as part of my tagging. So this way I could look at all shirts or all women's items when I do searches through tagging. So it's kind of smart to figure out, you wouldn't necessarily do like women's blouses as a tag. You could do women shirts, blouses, several different tags that'll help you grab the items based on what tags are linked to what items. And then you basically hit save. Now I do have another one here on my list. I think it also has sizes, and I think it's men's shirts. I think it has sizes. Yeah, so let me go ahead and edit this one. So as you can see, I said sizes small, medium, large, extra large. Now this gives a good point to consider. You could put small men's shirts and medium men's shirts, large men's shirts, and extra large men's shirts in one item like I have here. But then that way I only have to have one item. But if I want an item that's small men's shirts, then that could be a separate item. So if I broke these out into 4 different items, then you'd have a small shirt, medium shirt, extra large shirt, or a large shirt, which it depends on you though. So you may decide that you want to have a lot of detail in your inventory, or you may want to have less detail. This is a less detailed example. So now let's go through the next important section, and I believe that's going to be locations. So I'm going to go ahead and click locations on the left here. And the reason why I'm doing it is because when you add quantities to an inventory item, you have to say where it's going. Because you don't just throw it all in a big pile in the middle of the warehouse and search through it. Oh, I found a shirt. All right. So what you want to do is you want to be able to tell people where that shirt is, especially if, if they have to go get it in your warehouse and it's not just being checked out after they've pulled it off of a shelf or a rack or whatever the case may be. So in this case, I created a location named Clothing Closet, and I gave it zones: women's apparel, men's apparel, boys apparel, girls apparel. The reason why I did that this way is because chances are all my men's stuff will be in a section, and the same with women's, boys and girls, maybe even infants. But you don't have to do it this way. This is just the way I envisioned it. Your vision could be very, very different. But the same thinking applies though. So you want to be able to set a location: clothing closet. This could be a warehouse. This could be a room in a warehouse. It could be a floor space. You could have multiple warehouses. You could have the main receiving warehouse and everything has to be transferred over to, let's say, your pick room or your clothing closet. So you have to decide all those details. I made this a little more simple, and we're certainly willing to help you make it more complex or help you with any of this setup as part of our services being a customer of FoodBank Manager. Now, the reason why these zones, you want to consider zones along the lines of the areas in the location. So in my clothing closet, I'm going to find women's stuff in the women's apparel section. Same thing with men's. And that's how simple this is. But you have to know these things when you're adding a quantity. So if I were to go to an item, and let's say I just received some women's blouses, I have 34 currently, so I'm going to go ahead and add inventory or quantity to that current inventory level. So I have a plus here. I can also remove quantity. These are shortcuts. You can also edit or view the item here. You can also click here to view the item right on the name of it. There's all links to the item. So whether you use the plus here or you go to women's blouses and use the plus here, it's effectively going to be the same thing. So in this case, I'm going to add, and I'm normally putting it here. Now before, when I received my first order, added my initial quantity, I had to choose my location. So I went to clothing closet and then I went to women's apparel. Once I've done that already, then it automatically shows up as a hot link. So all you have to do is just choose it again if that's where it's going to go. You could go and put it somewhere else, again, if you want, but in this case, I'm just putting it there. I have several reasons as to why. It was a correction or found new, purchased. People have a tendency to like to use the donation received for all of these things because this makes it very easy to run reporting and then say who you either purchased that from or who donated it to you. In this case, like Walmart, we have a donated option and a purchased option. So if I'm buying those shirts, women's shirts from Walmart, then I would choose purchased. If it was donated from that Walmart, I would choose donated. Let's say, just to say New York City gave me a bunch of shirts. They gave me 100. So that way I could choose that, and I know that I can thank them by identifying that they gave me these items. Now, we have an option here, date performed. Date performed actually lets you receive things, let's say last Friday, and let's say today's Monday, but last Friday you received them. So you can mark them as receiving them last Friday. Or you can just mark them today's date, which is the default. You can also leave a note if a note is important based on these things. Once you've added your numbers, your quantities, you just simply hit save, and then the item is now updated to 134. Now it stays here because maybe you're working with shirts and you have shirts that's going to go to more than one location. So in that case, we're going to stay here, or if it was more than one donor that gave them to you and you wanted to separate them, add them all, but not add them all as one bulk, but add them as how many each donor gave. So in this case, I could just add more. I would choose this. I would say donation received, and then I would say who that donor is. So in this case, maybe this is where it was actually donated from Walmart, and they gave us 22 shirts. And the same thing goes with the rest of these fields. You adjust them as needed, and now I have 156. Now that I'm done working on the women's blouses, I can go to a different item, or I can just simply go back to my list. Now let's go to tags. Let's take a look at those. Tags are basically just hot search words to identify things. So maybe you want to find all your boys' items, maybe all your men's items. Maybe you want to find all your shirts, pants, or anything marked as a package. Now this is going to be used in your item list views, which we'll show in a minute. But the reason why I wouldn't necessarily say women's shoes is because I would mark all my women's items, whether shoes, pants, or whatever, as women's, and then my shoes as shoes, right? And actually I don't have shoes showing here. They're down here, I believe. Yeah, shoes. So I'll have shoes tag added to men's as well as to women's items, but I identify men's shoes by combining the two different tags to search by. So I'll say men's and shoes versus women's and shoes. Now let's look at this in action. So we're going to go to the list item. And then over here I have an option of selecting tags. So if I want to find all my shoes, then I could just mark shoes and search. So now this shows me all my items that have shoes as a tag. Now maybe I want to see men's shoes. Maybe I have more than one men's shoes and a bunch of women's shoes in there, and I don't want to look at all the women's shoes. I just want to see the men's shoes for what I'm doing. So then I would just add men's shoes, and now I'm going to get shoes and men's. So anything with these two tags. Now, if you don't like the fact that you're getting men's shoes and men's pants, you can consider doing that as men's shoes as a tag. But you'll have to decide that up front as you're creating items and adding your tagging. So it's a lot easier to know your tagging structure prior to actually creating or adding your items, because that way you could just add them in creation. But if you create 100 different items and then you have to go through and have to add all the tagging to them, yeah, that could be kind of painful, but inventory is painful. Inventory is not easy, and that's a good time to say it. It's a lot of work, but it has a lot of benefits and a lot of payoffs too. So if you're big enough and inventory is important, then yeah, you're going to put a little time into it. And that also leads me to discuss, having too many cooks in the stew, right? So if you have too many people that are working with the inventory module itself, and they're not all trained properly, you do stand a chance of having to deal with some issues. And this is a good segue to kind of look at what that means or how that might work. So this is going to take me into our audit logging. So if I go to audit logs, the one that you see under the items list on the left here, this is all of our audit logs that have occurred, and it doesn't matter what item it is. It's everything. This is an all-encompassing audit log. Now, there's not a single change you can make in this system without it being logged. Adding or removing items, moving items, all of that will give you a log, especially if it's going through the point of sale or if it's just a donation received. All these types of things will always give you that. And it also shows who did it, whether it was an add or a deduct, those types of things. And then the note here will automatically populate a completed with POS order if it was through the point of sale system. And the date it was performed and the date created. Now, it is good to know that you can go into an item, and in this case, I could say men's shoes, and then it pulls up all the logs for men's shoes. Now, if I had a lot of different items, that's fine. I could do that. I could also use tagging, right, for shoes and look at that, those types of things. In this case, I would just do this here. You can also look at it by zones. So if I wanted to see it like in the men's section, let's say, I would go to zones and I could do, let's say, men's apparel or women's apparel. And then it would give me all of the men's or women's. I don't have any items in children, boys and girls, or infants, so that's why it doesn't show. Once I have an item, then it becomes an option to look at. Now I can also look at this different, or I can look at it all different combinations. Maybe I just want to see a reason. So maybe it was a donation received, and it'll give me all the items that were a donation received. Now also we have an audit log. I can remember this is the giant one, but I also have an audit log for every item itself. So if I go to an item, then everything that occurred is here down below. So you'll see just the actual audits for this particular item. And as you notice, it's got a lot of filtering as well. While I'm here, I might as well talk about a couple more things. So you can have more than one barcode per item. Now this only has one, but if I wanted to add a second one to this one, I could just simply scan the second barcode for it. Automatically, because I'm on women's shoes, it'll add it to this, and I hit save. So whether I choose and scan this barcode or that barcode, it'll pull up the same item. What's nice about this is that if there's already barcode tagging on the items for all your women's shoes, you wouldn't have to recreate the wheel or print new barcodes and label all of them with the new fancy barcodes you made. You could just simply use the barcodes on the boxes. So it doesn't matter which one you click on, it's going to pull up this item. Now you can have it once again be more detailed, where every item is a one-to-one relationship if you want, to where you have an item for women's pumps black, women's pumps blue, and they could all have their own barcodes, which is fine. It works that way. But if you don't want to necessarily go through that kind of level of detail, then you could do it this way, just say women's shoes, and then put in the pumps green, pumps blue, pumps black barcodes in it. And it doesn't really matter which shoes they got. It's just you scan it, it pulls them up, and it removes women's shoes. Right? It just makes it simple. Now, we did talk about adding quantity. Let's go ahead and subtract the quantity. It's exactly the same way. You choose a location. If there's more than one location you store it, you would choose the one you're removing the quantity. And then you have reasons why you're removing it. Now, if you accidentally added items, and this is one of the main causes to remove an item, is you put it or you did it to the wrong donor. You gave it credit to the wrong donor. So in this case, you could choose a donor you gave credit to, remove it, process it, and then those items come out, and it's removed from that donor being credited. Then you could go back, when you're done, go back with our breadcrumbs up here, back to women's shoes, and then re-add it accordingly to the right donor. When it comes to all the fields, though, when it comes to removing, it's exactly the same thing as we were looking at before. Quantity, node, date performed, and then save. So it just removes the quantity for you. Now there's also another option up here, which is under the more. The more lets you move it. Now when you're moving it, what you're doing is you're going to have two locations here. Or if I only have one, I got to tell it where I'm moving it to. So if I'm going to move it from women's apparel to men's apparel, I can do that. And then it'll give me the two locations as to where it exists as well. But this allows you to move it. Now, especially if you have two warehouses, you could literally move it from the main receiving warehouse and then push it to any of the other smaller warehouses. Let's say your pick room or your clothing closet, if that's how big you are. Not everyone is that big. But everything goes the same. Quantity, note, date, boom, save, and then it takes them out of this location here and then moves them into the new location. So super simple. You also have the edit option, which you can then just do the standard edit, which we looked at earlier. Maybe you need to add a tag. At that point in time, you can. So when it comes to that tag field, just click in it, and then you can choose what it is, and then just hit save, and it'll save it. All right, let's discuss packages and their benefit for you if you decide you want to use them. Now, earlier in our visit where we used the point of sale, we actually used a package. So if I go to list here under packages, you'll see my men's outfit. So a men's outfit is made of several things. By my picture, you can see it's a shirt, belt, shoes, and slacks or pants. Now, my availability is in the clothing closet. As you can see, I have 46 available. I have none on hold. Men's belts, men's shoes, these are the items that are in it. We only show so much, but if you need to see it all, you certainly can, and what the quantities are. Now, earlier, I gave 2 shirts, but what I gave basically is 1 shirt through the package men's outfit, and then a separate single shirt. The package is made up of a single men's shirt. In fact, it's a quantity of 1. This item doesn't really exist. This is an illusionary item. right? This is a virtual item. All it is an item you can pull up and click on to pull out these 4 things at the appropriate quantities. Also incredibly handy in food. But in this case, I'm only doing it for clothing. So you could have a men's outfit, a women's outfit, a baby outfit, maybe a hygiene packet, maybe a men's hygiene packet or women's or a child's or an adult's, however you want to do it. But it just makes it easy to check out one or more of those than it does to remember, okay, you got 2 men's outfits, so that's 2 pants, 2 shirts, 2 belts, and then 2 shoes, and then to check all that out properly. It's a lot easier in clothing probably than it is in food to do that, but if you have a food box, and just really quick to talk about it, let's say there's 20 items in it, and each item is the same in every food box to count, so you have 2 mac and cheese, 2 tuna, 1 pound bag of spaghetti, and so on. If you had to say on a household size of 1 to 3 got 1 food box, 4 to 6 got 2 food boxes, and 7 and up got 3, then you'd have to take the household size, that's 2 food boxes or 3 food boxes, and then so 1 spaghetti, so that's 3 at the checkout. That's 2, 4, 6 mac and cheese or tuna at the checkout, right? So that can get crazy, really hard. So it's easier just to check out a package. Boom. How many hygiene packages? How many men's outfits? How many women's outfits? How many babies' outfits? Maybe a baby food package. That kind of stuff. So packages are super handy and they're very easy to work with. So what I'm doing basically is you say what location it is, clothing closet, and then you get this line right below it because these don't exist yet when you're making it. So all you do is select your item, right? That and what zone it came in, boom, and then how many, and you add it. Now I'm not going to add a gallon of milk because that's silly. But it automatically then adds up individual pricing as well to give you a total value for that package. Tagging, just the same thing, and then you save. It's really simple to work with. And then that's the same thing you'll see here. You just choose where you're doing it at, and you're choosing the item. So in men's pants, select zone, it's in men's apparel, 1, add, and then add all the items that go to it. And that's it. That's how simple they are. Availability view on this just shows all your packages and what their availability is. And this availability depends on if you have enough, when you look at this item, if you have enough in the inventory item list for these items to all be 1, you'll get a package. But once one of these, let's say I don't have any more men's shirts, it's at 0, it would still show 1 here, but your availability would show 0 because you can't complete a package because one of your items is below the required quantity to make the package. So just be aware of that. That's how that's going to work. By now you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, my fingers are going to wear out because so much typing. Yeah, there's some of that for sure. But we do have some importing functionality here. I'm not going to go into it detailed, but I'm going to show you a few pieces to it, and then I'll probably do a separate video. Well, I will do a separate video for how to use the importing functionality. So to do that, we're just going to go to imports, and you're going to see 4 items here. First is get items format. This is going to give you a spreadsheet, and let me pop it open real quick. So I'll do it, I'll download it, choose it, and then I have to bring it over because it goes to a different screen. So what this does is this gives you basically a little spreadsheet that tells you what you have to do. And you're going to use this document. It's a specially crafted document that you cannot edit other than adding this information, right? In fact, you could write over this one. So what you would do is you would say men's shoes, right? If I'm adding it. And then you say description, if applicable. If not a description, don't do it. Your weight. Let's say those men's shoes weigh 3 pounds. The price, $1.25. If you're using points, what's your minimum count? I don't have a minimum count. I don't have a maximum count. And then you could do a green light, stop light. If you do G, Y, R, or just leave it blank. So in this case, I'm leaving it blank because it's clothing. We're not going to be eating it. And then whatever your tags are. And then unfortunately, this is where you're going to need to know your tagging, right? So if this is shoes, then you do shoes. And I think you do a comma, shoes, men's, right? That kind of thing. And then that's it. I've got an item in. It's typing, but it's not like going to all the menus and doing all the clicking. Once this is done, you're basically just going to save this where you know where you can retrieve it. So save, and then I'll close it. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to go to my next section, and that's the import the items section. So here, I'm going to update existing items or skip existing item. So if it's already there, it'll skip it if you choose that. So if I have men's shoes in there already and it matches, then it'll say, whoa, what are you doing? Right? You don't want it, you'll update it versus overwriting it. And then you're going to upload where that file is. You grab your file, and then you're done. You choose it, and then it's going to give you an option here of importing those items. So once you do, it adds your items. Like I said, we're going to go to another video. This one's already really long. We're not going to do too much more here. I do want to show you some reports, and that's going to be 5 to 7 minutes. Another thing is you can get your quantity format. Same thing goes. You'll choose it, open up the spreadsheet, and then this one's a little different, but it's similar. So let me blow this up for you so that you can view it a little bit better. So because I have a hard time seeing it myself. So I'm going to choose all. I'm going to expand it. There we go. So now what I'm going to do here is I already have a bunch of items in here, like my women's pants, shoes, blouses, and all that kind of stuff. I have my current quantity. So if I'm adding, let's say, to my men's belts, I'm adding, let's say, two belts, I would do that. If I'm subtracting 2, I would just do a -2. And then I do my reason. There is a drop down for the reason, right? And then so here's all my new and then all my removals and all my additions. Now this does not allow you to do the donation received. So if they're non-donations, then yeah, just do this. It's fast and easy. But here's the issue. If you do need to record the donations in the way they're done, then I would do it through the product item for those. Let's say you got a bunch of items that aren't part of a donation, then like I said, it doesn't matter. But just be aware of that. Probably the biggest use for this is going to be when you audit your inventory. You're going to pop this open, mark your, I have 2 more of those than I thought. We have 2 less of these. They're not related to donors at all. Then you're just going to do whether they were found new, right? Or in this case, it's a plus. So in this case, I would say, I don't know what happened to them, but we're down to, we lost them, right? Let's say this one is a +2. This one here, we'd say, well, I don't know how we got these, but we'll just mark them as found new, right? And then you import them. So ideally, this is a great way of auditing your inventory, getting your changes needed, updating this form and uploading it to do that very quickly. But remember, if you're doing donation received for that reporting, then this isn't ideal for that. Do everything but those and then add those later. Anyway, so that's that. Once you have this saved, then you're going to go right down here to import your quantity. It looks just like the other one, and then do that. Okay, let's do some reporting. To go there, we're going to go to reports on the left, and there's going to be several different reports to choose from. You're going to have your guest summary report, your donor summary report. Guest summary report is going to be basically foods going out and who they're linked to. Like Don got food, Mary got food, and Tim got food. Maybe clothing, in this case clothing. Tim got clothing, Don got clothing, that kind of stuff. As well as donors is going to be basically what comes in. Whether it was donated to you or you purchased it, it makes it easy to identify all those things in those ways. The low stock items report basically is where the minimum and maximum stuff comes in. So if I run this, it's going to say, oh, here's a list of items that you're at or below minimum, and then here's how many you have to add to get to your maximum, and then the expected cost based on your item cost. Your on-hand report is what you're going to basically be doing your auditing of your inventory with. It's very similar to the availability report, but it has some filters to it that's nice, and you can export out everything. Essentially, it's not much different than the availability view under your items. And then, of course, if you want to view all the different items that you have SKUs for and that kind of thing. All right, so let's go over a guest summary, which is basically your outgoing items. So we'll click here. Now, there's going to be several things we have. We're going to have our date range. Day range is going to be very simply set. You pick and choose. You have to do 2 clicks though. So if I only want to see today's visits, I click it twice, then that lets my OK pop up. If I wanted to do a range, let's say of all of October to the 31st of October, then I get my OK. Now I only have one visit has any clothing items that was done on the 31st. Well, let's just say I don't want to include it. I just want to know what happened today. And that's what we're going to go with our reporting. Then when I click here, I'm going to have several different things with locations. Now, I don't have a pick room. That was for my food. So I'm just going to turn that off. I don't really need to see it. Now, when it comes to my services, I have a lot of services. Now, I don't want to include all of these services. I only want to include one service that I plan on reporting on. So in this case, I'm just going to choose my clothing. Now, at this stage, if I just hit search, I'm going to get these items. So 18 items, total 26 weight, with $63.63 of items. So that's how much went out. Now, if I want to know what those items are, I can just simply add item and then research again. Now I'm going to see the item IDs, but I'm going to see my quantity, what my weight is, and this is an accumulated weight, and then price is an accumulated price. We didn't enter points, so none of those are showing. But in this case, if I go back to where I didn't do my items, this 63.60 as well as 26 pounds is basically the same, but just broke down by items now. So I have my weight, my prices. Now let's say I don't want to know necessarily the item level, but I can, as we saw. Maybe I just want to see who got some clothing from me. So in this case, now I'm going to see David, Carla, and Donald all received clothing from me with the totals accordingly. Now, if I want to see what each one person got, then I can add that. So here we have Carla, men's pants, Carla got men's shoes, Carla got men's belt, and an additional men's shirt. Now, if you remember correctly, actually, let me sort this because that's not accurate. Here's Carla. So she's got a shirt, pants, shoes, belt. Remember, she got a package, right? One of everything. And then I added a second shirt. So this is what this is showing. So here's all my weights accordingly, and all my prices, and then all my clients that I served, and an item listing for every item every client received. Now this is very handy also in food, especially if you have something that's expired and you want to know who will get tuna, right? Oh, I better call these people. Throw your tuna away. You know, come back and get more. Now, if you're doing reporting, you may have to report out some interesting things. So what if you, let's say, want to know what your numbers is by tracking method? So my clothing tracking method, total 18, 26, price. If I want to know what items were in that tracking method, I don't really want to see the clients. So now in that tracking method, I have men's shoes, men's belts, men's shirt. And that's all. So all that went out. Now I'm going to go ahead and say I just want to see it in my inventory location. So the clothing closet, total of 18 items. Now, if you're not real complex, you're seeing a lot of duplication of the data. But if you're really complex and you have a lot of inventory locations like a warehouse, pick room, baby room, food section and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you're going to see the different values based on those inventory locations. But in this case, we just demonstrated a single one for our clothing closet with 4 different zones. So it's not even complex. But that's basically what you're looking at. So you can get these numbers in any combination. If you want them all, you can do them all and search. And then you can see you're going to have a lot of different combinations to work through. You can always export this to a spreadsheet to do what you need to do. And if you're happy with a report, save it as a preset. Save it as a preset. It'd be a new preset, or you can edit an existing. If you're just doing a new, you can just do Don's preset or whatever you call it. I probably should call it something like clothing all reporting or something like that. And then hit save. Then what you're going to do is when you need to run this again, when you go into guest summary, when there's no values here, let me leave and then go back, and I hit presets, I can just load that one. And then it's all the settings are all in here. And then just search it. The only thing I would have to do is change my date range if I wanted to change my date range. By default, this always does last month. But we do have some this month's, some hot links here, or the calendar year. if you're looking at a year report, or you can just simply use the reporting accordingly and say, I just want the 9th month, this 1st through the 7th of September, and boom, set your date. So you set that as you need. Now, remember, this is all the food going out to your clients. Now, the donor summary is really handy. And remember, we were talking about this. So I'm just going to go here to here, and then I'm not sure where I'm getting them up, but I'm just going to look for them all. And then once again, clothing closet pick room, I'm just doing clothing closet stuff. Now, if I hit search, I'm just going to see 846 items, weight, price. Now, if I go here and say, I want to see it by my donors, this is where it comes in super handy. So because I've identified a particular organization or store that I can either get stuff donated to me from or I can go purchase from, this is where it's handy to have that donor in there twice. So donor, these are my purchased items. These are my for Walmart, my purchased items and my Walmart donated items. Now, other areas gave me some donations as well. So we got some donations from New York City, State of New York, the probation department, different things have given me these donations. Now, if I want to know what they donated, then I can go here and I can add items to it and then hit search. And this is also basically not just a donated items report, it's the items you've added, right? That's what we're doing. So we just added the element of being able to identify them a little bit differently, right? So here's all my items, all the different people that either gave me or I purchased stuff. And then here's all of my item IDs, what the item names were, and what the quantities, weights, and prices. So any combination of all these. If I just want to look at it by inventory location, now I'm just looking at, I received 846 items, there's point and price, and then I just want to see the item list, and then here we go. Now remember, when you're receiving an item, so if I were to go here, like the women's shoes, and I'm adding a quantity, you have several different reasons. So corrected, found new, purchased, donation received, or distribution received. Now, don't be confused by saying donation received. That's just one of your incoming streams. So if I had said correction or found new or purchased, all of those will still show in your donor summary report. Well, we just call it that way because, I don't know, that's what we did. So you're going to get them all. And it's basically, if I could change this name, I would call it incoming summary or outgoing summary, right? But we just named it a little differently based on how people normally use it, because this was actually not built to run a store. This was built to run a pantry. And in fact, this was built from the ground up. And we worked with like a half a dozen different agencies that said, I would like this, and oh, I don't like that. And we listened to all of that, and we put together this product. We've been working on it for about 3 years now, and we're getting real close to pretty much, hitting all the targets that everyone needs at an agency. All right, so let's go to the low stock items. So basically, you'll choose what you want. I want to look at my clothing closet, hit search. Surprise, surprise, I have no low stock items because I have no min-maxes, right? So it's not going to report out. If I have a min-max, probably White has some in the pick room. Let me look. Nope, nothing is outside of that realm. So if my min was 10 gallons of milk, and I'm at 10 or 9, it would show. But obviously everything I have is right in line where it needs to be. So I don't really have anything it's recommending I order. If I go to my on-hand report, this looks very similar to if you go to list and your availability, you see it looks almost identical. It's similar. But it's going to list all these. A nice thing though here too is you could then search by something. So let's say you wanted to look at, let's say you just wanted to do all of your dresses and shirts. That's all you wanted. And maybe women's. Do I have a women's here? Yeah, down here. Women's. And then I hit search. What that's going to give me is anything that's either men's or, shirts, whether it's women's or men's, right? So in women's, I'm going to get pants, shoes, blouses, dress. Men's, I get a shirt. Now, what I would do is I would export this. If that wasn't what I wanted, I'd just get rid of it. But this makes it very handy for you to identify or let everyone audit a particular section. Now, let's say I just wanted to do it by women's apparel. I could just do that and hit search. And now it's just going to be the women's apparel stuff. Now, if I do a tag and I do pants, let's say, and hit search, it's going to stay in women's apparel. It won't cross into men's, and it just gives me all the pants for women. So in that case, I could say, maybe in that case, is to that example, I want to do dresses and shirts for women's apparel. Now it just gives me exactly what I'm looking for. I would export this, give this spreadsheet, print it, give the spreadsheet to the person that's going to go audit those sections, mark the pluses or minuses for each one, and then you'll use that importing tool to adjust accordingly and import it. But that's how simple it is. It's very easy. And if you want to see all the items that you have barcodes for, you'll have them here, and it identifies what they are as well. You can also export this too if you need to edit or figure something out. So that's reporting. That's pretty much everything when it comes to inventory. I went through it pretty cleanly. I feel there's a lot to learn. You may have to watch it a couple times. But in the meantime, thank you for sitting all the way through this. Wow, if you sat through it all. But otherwise, if you have any questions, we're always here for you. And we do offer support in all this to help you get it configured and set up. This is not something we're going to say, you got it. Now you got to deal with it. No, we're here for you. We're here to help you. So just remember, we're always here. We'll help you get things set up. We'll help you figure things out. We're not going to do the work for you, but we will make sure that you're not banging your head against the wall wishing you knew what to do, because there's no reason to be in that state when you're using FoodBank Manager. Our customer support is better than anything you've experienced, and I promise you'll be saying that to us one day. Anyway, thank you all so much. You have a fantastic day now.